Welcome to the Marketing on the Move podcast, hosted by The Breezy Company, your go-to resource to master your marketing while juggling all of the demands of being a business owner. We understand that your time is a limited resource and marketing might be the last thing on your priority list right now. Our mission is to provide you with tangible insights and actionable tactics into the latest marketing trends, best practices, and strategies that you can implement no matter how busy you are. Each episode is designed to offer practical advice on leveraging your unique business strengths and efficiently managing your marketing strategy. Whether you're tuning in during your morning commute, between meetings, or while on the run, Marketing on the Move is here to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in marketing, even when your schedule is packed. Join us for a journey into making the most of your marketing efforts, no matter how busy you are.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Marketing on the Move podcast. My name is Emily Hunter. I'm the content creator director here at Breezy Content. I'm joined today by a fabulous team of contributors to the conversation. We've got the marketing dream team, Josh and Savannah, the co-founders of Breezy Content. We've also got Steve Soto over here, who is the Chief Technology Officer of the Breezy Sites division. So say hey everyone.
Hello.
Awesome. So today, what we wanted to do is kind of have a conversation about some of the most common questions that we get. So whether these are questions that we received on our social channels, on conversations with clients, on conversations with potential clients, these are some of those things that we tend to talk about all day, every day, and things that we feel like we can speak to and provide some value for marketing managers, small business owners, anyone who's looking to dip their toe into providing really great content marketing. So we will go ahead and get started with some of these questions, and anybody feel free to jump into the conversation.
Bring them on. We got all the answers.
Here we go. All right. So the first one is a little bit more of kind of an umbrella question, but I'd love to sort of get started with this one. But what is content marketing, and what makes it different from just kind of posting whenever you want to?
Savannah, that sounds like a you question.
Well, content marketing in its essence is obviously marketing with content. So you are trying to create consistent content across all kinds of media channels that is providing value to the audience to build trust, credibility, and authority with that audience. So you are tailoring content specific to the audience you're trying to reach. You're trying to answer their questions. You're trying to help them find the answers they've been looking for, all without promoting yourself hardly at all. So think about it as a very separate approach from ads, sales kind of based marketing, things like that. This is purely you're displaying thought leadership. You're talking about your subject matter expertise, not to really shine the light on yourself, but purely to be a resource to the audience. The theory behind content marketing is it helps to build more trust with the audience because you're not just pushing your brand and your solution on them. You're just helping them find a solution. We are story brand stands around here. So we love the idea that we are leading, the audience through a journey. We're just acting as the guide. We're not the hero, they're the hero. We're just trying to create content that helps them along their journey, find the answers they've been looking for. So that is what content marketing is in its essence. When it's done well, it does get confused a lot with a lot of other stuff, but when you're doing it right, that's what it should look like.
Yeah, I'll kind of add to that too. One thing that I get that gets confused a lot with people I talk to, they go, oh, okay, so we're doing social media. So what ads are we going to run? Or how's it? And I want to draw a line in the sand of a lot of times what content marketing is like what you said, it's adding value. And sometimes that value may be just entertainment. Like I'm just like my kids looking at YouTube and they're looking at it and it's really stupid and they're laughing the whole time. And that is technically content. And then you'll see that same person actually run an ad or something, the toy that they were actually playing around, have an ad come right after it that tells a story. And that story is how amazing this is, or you might actually spill coffee on yourself, and wouldn't it be great if you had this product that solves it? And that's an ad. One is organic, and you really don't have a ton of control over who watches it, and one is direct, which means you're paying to have complete control over it and where it points to.
Yeah, absolutely. And we use here at Breezy Content, we use content marketing as a part of a larger content strategy. So something I want to talk about too is very often we have people come to us and they've likely been just sort of posting whenever the mood strikes. They're posting whatever they think of, whatever, sometimes it's great when they're commenting on things that are trending or whatever, but I'd love to talk about how a content strategy can really direct your content marketing and what the benefit of doing that rather than just sort of willy-nilly whatever comes to mind.
One distinction I would love to make that I think is so funny is that people think that content marketing is synonymous with social media, and it's not. A lot of times people are like, well, we've been doing social media. And I'm like, well, content goes far beyond social media, and a content marketing and a content strategy go far beyond this one type of channel that you can be displaying content on. So it's far bigger than that. So I think, first of all, it needs to start with your overall brand strategy and what you're trying to accomplish, who you're trying to reach, who you're trying to talk to. That's the entire point. If you don't fully understand your target audience and where they're spending time and how they consume content, then that's really, you need to back it up a few steps and figure that out first. So then secondly, it comes into, okay, what are we trying to actually accomplish with content? People a lot of times think that, well, I'll just do marketing and like, it'll kind of just like eventually work, right? And it's not going to. If you don't have a really specific strategy in mind with what you're trying to accomplish, and that strategy in the content is aligned with your business goals, the KPIs you're trying to hit, things like that, like you're wasting money. It's really, really pointless. You shouldn't just have a presence, just have a presence. There should be a goal, a strategy, and implementation, along the way. So first of all, looking at who you're trying to talk to, what you're trying to accomplish by talking to those people, and then the strategy can kind of start to take shape on what that should look like. Are we trying to drive clicks? Are we trying to just get more engagement? Are we trying to, increase our overall brand awareness? Are we trying to create credibility in a specific space? Whatever that is, that starts to form the content strategy. Then content marketing can start taking place. We can start actually creating the content that's going to fill out that strategy.
Steve, I think you would be really good to talk to this. Can you talk a little bit about what happens when somebody starts doing a little bit of social media or content marketing and they have nothing to send it to? Like people click on it and it actually doesn't say the same thing, or maybe it's a little off. What do you have to say about that?
Well, there's a lot of that. I mean, you go through a lot of like YouTube videos and you go through a lot of Instagram, and they've got this wonderful thing. It's very appealing. And then you click it and it goes to some place that just doesn't make any sense. I've seen, people showing beautiful meals at a high-end resort, and you click on it and it doesn't even go to the resort. It doesn't go to a reservation page. It doesn't do anything, and except show you more of what you just looked at. And
or like the worst thing that's possible is you click on an ad and then their site isn't working and it just goes to a 404 page. That's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is, people love making bright, shiny toys. And sometimes they forget they need to hook them up to the boring stuff like collecting contact information.
I do think too, thinking about when you think about the content strategy, so kind of back to that like kind of tiered system I was talking about. So who they are and what you're trying to accomplish in your business, but knowing how they spend their time in the digital space and how they consume information, that's going to be a really essential part of your content strategy and your marketing as well. Because if you know that your audience spends all their time on TikTok, you should be spending all of your content resources on creating TikTok. But if you know that your audience tends to want really long form content, then you really should be putting a lot of your resources into blog creation. And then social media should probably take more of a backseat. Not that you shouldn't have any presence, you probably should, but it should be kind of more, in balance. If your goal right now is really, we've got to grow our email list. We have nobody. Then creating lead generation content should be where you put a lot of your content resources so that you can start to build that out. So it's so much more than just being on social media or just having a blog or whatever. It's really about what are we trying to do, who are we trying to talk to, and how can content get us there. That's what I really try to drive home with our clients as well as potential clients we talk to.
I love the focus too on it being content has a purpose. It has an end goal, whether that's getting them to your audience to learn more, whether getting them to a contact page, like whatever it is, thinking about it from the entire life cycle rather than just this bright, shiny piece of content. I think that's a great point. A couple other things I'd love to chat about, a couple other questions around that idea of content being larger than just social media post to social media post. I'd love to talk about why does the visual representation of your content matter so much, what it actually looks and feels like.
Oh,
Josh is the true designer, so let's let him take that one. He's the actual
yeah,
artist here.
I'm the pickiest anyway. Here's the thing that we're talking about. It represents a couple things, and this is what I say to our clients. If imagine you have a job interview, and then you wake up in the morning and you don't take a shower, and you don't brush your teeth, and you're still wearing your 1984 sweatpants, and I got a hole in my shirt, and I show up at the interview, and I sit down. And then when I sit down, I don't really say anything. I just kind of, I kind of want to work here and it's cool that you're here. That's what it's like when you have bad design. It doesn't matter really how much you know. People start assuming that number one, you don't really know anything. You're probably not that professional. You must not have that much money because you're not spending any money on design. Which is kind of like me not going and buying nice clothes. There's all these kind of things that they're going to assume about you, and it may not be fair, but that's just how life works. Is that they're going to make assumptions on your brand, but on top of that, they're going to start assuming that the kind of work that you do for yourself is the kind of work you'll be doing for them. You don't have to be a designer to do this. If you're a consultant, or if you do IT consulting, or if you're a dentist or whatever it is, I mean, think about it. I'm a dentist. I look at your social media content, I look at your website, and I assume the design is going to be as nice as my teeth are going to look. And whether they know that or not, that's what they're assuming.
There's a competition element to it as well. Like, one of my guilty pleasures on Instagram is looking at house tours of houses that I cannot currently afford and that are like super massive and super expensive and really nice. But there's a couple of real estate agents in my area that do these, so I get targeted with them obviously on Instagram because I keep clicking on them too. There's one guy that does these really great videos. I mean, he's super funny. He's got like a great personality. He shows off these really cool spaces. The way they edit the videos is really great, and I love watching them. And then there's another real estate agent, same area, same kind of feel, but his video editing is worse. His presentation is worse. He's going for the same thing, but it's not quite there. And it's like, I can feel that. And I'm less likely to want to watch his videos. I want to watch the other guys. And that's purely about design. It's purely about the visual representation, because they both are clearly good at what they do. They're selling, $500,000 plus, priced homes. Like, they're in the same area. They're competing against each other. And yet one guy is way more likely that I'm going to watch his videos than the other, purely because he has better editing capabilities, better presentation. It's just how it is.
Yeah, there is there's a lawyer in our area and in North Georgia that I was hearing the other day that she is just a normal accident lawyer. Like, that's all she does. But at some point, she started I don't know if she got an investment or she just spent her whole life savings. She just started buying every billboard that exists in our area. And then she's like started dolling herself up. And they showed me this progression. And now there's a perception that she's like the best accident lawyer in North Georgia. And she didn't change anything, except for she just is on every single billboard. And we can't always afford that. It's called saturation when you do that. That's why I say she must have got some kind of investment money. But you have to admit that the impression that this really great billboard that's everywhere, this person must be a great lawyer. It's impression.
I saw an example of the reverse. A friend of mine is doing content marketing for a car dealership. And they're, they take in a lot of trade-ins, and the cars are of various quality. But the way she lays out her content, she gets the best angle of every car, the best lighting. She makes sure that every car is polished first. And a few people have come in and said, wow, this car looked great in your ad or your TikTok. Well, what's up with this? She just didn't shoot the inside that had been torn up by the previous owner. It was, it can still get you into conversations. even, if you look good and you're presenting things in their best light, it can still get you into a conversation, and maybe you have an opportunity to find out what the customer really wants.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I love the idea of it gets you in the door. I think it can also keep you out of the door. If you have amazing content, your thought leadership, your education is amazing, but it looks like trash. Like nobody's going to want to engage with that. So I think that's a valid thing to keep in mind.
So true.
Speaking of educational and thought leadership content, I think those two things very often get confused. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on what the difference specifically is between educational content and thought leadership content.
I would say, to put it really simply, thought leadership is your distinct and unique point of view on a topic or on an area of an industry. It could be purely opinion. It could be anecdotal, evidence from things that you've seen. It could be best practices that you've developed over years of doing it that somebody else wouldn't have because it's different than, what their perspective would be. So it's your unique point of view that you've developed over years of actually doing what you do. Whereas education is purely just facts. This is the information of how this works. These are the numbers. These are the statistics. This is how this goes. It's not really giving your opinion in any way, shape, or form, or really giving like a unique point of view. It's just like, here's the numbers, here's the facts, here's how this works. Whereas this is, hey, this is what we think. So like an example of this would be, let's say you're a landscaping company. Education would be, this type of grass works in this type of climate, facts. Thought leadership is, but what we found is, while that's true, you can get away with this, and this if we do it in this certain way, and if we treat it a certain way, and if we work with you to create this very specific kind of look, because that's your experience, that's what you kind of bring to the table. That's kind of the difference between those types of content, and you need both in a content marketing strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to think of educational content as like the Googleable things. That's not to say you can't find, thought leadership content that's out there about a specific topic, but the thought leadership is like, you've been doing it, you've been working in your industry for so long, and here's what I know from doing this for years and years. That's always a great thing to be able to put out there, because it means you're trustworthy, you know what you're talking about. That's really going to get people, whether you have a product or a service, they're going to say, that person knows what they're doing. Let me get on board with them.
Yeah, I think there's a difference too. I'm sorry, I'm late. So only thing I was going to say is that, I think there's varying levels of both. Like you see like people on Udemy or people that are just are producing classes. I would consider that educational content. And then there's like masterclass, which is like people that have become celebrities because they're so good at it. Like, and even the quality, even the way the masterclass is, like somebody was willing to spend money to hear what you have to say about these facts. So it's a combination of thought leadership and the facts, but there's a difference in quality. So what's really interesting is that when I talk to a consultant and they want to present some thought leadership, but they also have some proprietary content. Mm-hmm. They might have some models they've built. They have certain ways that they get content or get clients to certain results that they only share when they're in the room. That's really good content. That might be content that I might be willing to pay for. That might be content that you can actually fit into your business model. And so I think the difference too there is that also there's a little bit of a funnel building. You have your freemium type content, which might be something like a blog post or something like that. That's probably going to be something that's pretty Googleable. You're gonna look for it. And then you have something that is a little more premium, that is something like, it could be a podcast, it could be a webinar, it could be a lead magnet. And then at some point, you probably do have something like a book, or you have something like that. And people take that for granted. And I have sat there and worked with people and said, you do this all day long. You've been doing it for 25 years. You're telling me you don't have a unique point of view on this? And we have to work to get there.
Yeah, and that's a great point to bring up our next question as well, which is, how do I plan thought leadership content strategically? So I think it's important to step back and think about that person that maybe doesn't know what they know that other people don't. Maybe they don't understand that thought leadership that they have in their brain. How do we translate? I don't know if I really have a unique perspective to a really valuable piece of thought leadership content.
There's also people who know they have a unique point of view on things, and they know they have a unique thing to say. They just don't know like how to get it all out and how to create ongoing content plans and strategy that actually like get all that out of their brain. So I think we deal with both. I think one thing that we consistently kind of do with our clients is we actually just get them on a call for 30 minutes and we'll just like ask them questions. And the great thing about that methodology is that we aren't experts necessarily in their field and in their space. So they're really educating a very entry level sort of person. And most people, if they love what they do, they love educating somebody who doesn't know anything about their space and their business, because they really get to download all this stuff. And it starts to get into the recesses of their mind. Like, yeah, I'm usually just I know all this stuff, but I'm having to bring it down to your level to educate you on it. So then it starts pulling out all these really interesting kind of facts and thoughts and points of view they have, because they haven't really had to consider that before, because they're usually talking to people who understand it just like they do. So we'll take that and we'll turn it into video clips and audio clips and different pieces of thought leadership content. But thinking about, even if you don't have a team you're working with, a really practical kind of exercise that you can do is take the top 10 topics in your industry, the top 10 kind of categories of topics. They could be hot topics, they could be evergreen, meaning they're like always going to be important. And think about how you would educate somebody who knows nothing about those things. Or if your audience has some level of education about what you do, but maybe not a ton, how would you talk to those sorts of people about all of that and just start writing it all out, start recording it, start talking about it with people? That is a great way to kind of see what you know and begin to get it out of your brain and into formalized content.
Yeah, there's a different thing. I'd love to hear Steve's opinion on this. Whenever we start working on a sitemap, a lot of times it ends up being just the things they feel like telling the client. But when you look into the SEO keywords, which is what I was going to ask you about, you start to see what people are actually searching for. Do you have anything to say about that, Steve?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff with SEO where there's not only what you did say and what you do know, but also what you want to use to attract people to your content. So it may not, you may be doing a recipe website and all, that's what you want people to do and see. But you may be doing reviews of recipes, which are not recipes in and of themselves. And those keywords pull people in. And then they go, oh, you've got recipes. And the same thing for, if you're selling homeowners insurance, you might want to write about why the cost of homeowners insurance is going through the roof. And that in and of itself is not about selling insurance. In fact, it's talking about a problem in the industry. But it's those words and those search terms about, low cost insurance or why is my insurance going up or things like that pull people in. And then lo and behold, they're on a website that sells insurance and purports to sell it cheaper, at the same time. So it's really not just what is it I got to blurt out to everyone that's your SEO. It's also what are people thinking about that make them interested in what I do.
And this is, and this kind of strategy really pertains, it doesn't pertain to every single person, but one thing my clients have been surprised at when we're going through a content strategy is they may be a B2B company, and they're selling solar panels to companies around California or something. What's really interesting is that if you start to think of your buyer as a person and realize that person also goes home and they watch Netflix and looks at YouTube, and when you start to think of it that way, then you can start to say, what routes would they come in, or how would I convert them to maybe they were searching something about their home and then they realized they could do it for their business. Like, is there a way to do that? And that takes a lot of trial and error. But I think it's really important to think of them as a person, because my mind never turns off. And I also find it really funny, as a side note, when I sit down and I watch YouTube with my kids one night, and then they're on my account, and all of a sudden, a CRM commercial will come up, and they're targeting like after a kids commercial. Well, they weren't targeting. They were targeting me sitting down with my kids because this is my account. And so it's a smart thing to do to think of those as people, as people, especially as we start to mix life and regular life and work are just mixing more and more every day. Yep. So it's an important thing to do.
Yeah, I think practically that the SEO keywords is it's a great place to start for someone who maybe knows so much about their industry that they don't know where to begin with thought leadership content. Just literally going and Googling your industry or Googling some of the like heavy hitting terms will give you that, all those other queries that people are going and searching for. That's a great way to get a concept of what the average person or the average Google user, I guess those two things might be different, but I think starting there. Something else I do all the time with my clients, and I have our content creators do with theirs, is if there's any news in the industry, if there's any trends or anything that's happening that, they may have an opinion on, I love to send articles and things like that to those thought leaders and see what their reaction is. We've talked about this on a previous podcast, but whatever their reaction is, whether it's they agree with the article, whether they disagree with the article, whatever it may be, you're going to get some information from them. It's going to be a conversation starter. So I find that always works pretty well to get the thoughts flowing. Great. Thank you guys so much for all of your input on these questions. I think we've got a great start into some of the most common questions that we are asked, that we're a part of those conversations. If you have any more questions about Breezy content or how to implement a content strategy for your business, you can learn more about who we are and what we do at thebreezycompany.co. And we'd love to hear from you there. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Marketing on the Move. If you're looking for more ways to improve your marketing and build a scalable system to help your business grow, check out thebreezycompany.co or any of the resources linked in today's show notes.